Welcome to Eastern Hospitality. I'm Father Moses from Holy Resurrection Monastery in St. Nazianz, Wisconsin.
And I'm Mother Gabriella from Christ the Bridegroom Monastery in Burton, Ohio. Christ is risen!
Indeed he is risen.
Welcome back for our second Sunday of Pascha, which is Thomas Sunday. And we're cooking up some really good food. But speaking of that, what are we cooking?
We're cooking Hashwi today, a Middle Eastern dish.
Okay.
And it's become tradition in our monastery to have it on Thomas Sunday as a way to use up all the bits of lamb that we have left from Pascha and Bright Week. So I've taken all the bits of lamb that were left, I put them in the crock pot with a little bit of water, let it cook all night, and then I just shredded it with a couple of forks.
Just fell right apart?
Fell right apart.
Okay. And what do we have here?
We've got some toasted pine nuts and some toasted slivered almonds.
Okay, and then how did you toast those?
Just put them in the oven for a few minutes.
Okay.
Yep. We've got some basmati rice here, which I've cooked with some cinnamon, some allspice, a couple of cloves, and a pinch of saffron. And about halfway through cooking, I added a nice big handful of dried cherries. Okay. And I cooked that in chicken broth. Okay. So some ground beef that I just browned off with a little salt and pepper. Extra caramelized onions. I caramelized them and just kept cooking till they're almost burnt. They had a really nice flavor to the rice, and I just cooked them in a little bit of olive oil.
So you use some of those in the rice, right?
I did toss them into a little bit into the rice as well.
Okay.
And then we've got some garlic and parsley yogurt. I just added garlic and parsley to some Greek yogurt, little salt and pepper, and nice condiment for the rice.
Would you let that sit for a while to kind of get back?
Yeah, I like to let it marinate overnight or so.
Overnight, okay. Very good.
Okay.
Well, we'll be right back to assemble, but until then, please feel free to enjoy this reflection on Thomas Sunday.
Well, I see our cooks are very wisely using the leftover foods from Pascha, but those foods never get old. Glory to Jesus Christ. I'm Father Thomas Loya. The Sunday after Pascha, the resurrection, in many Eastern Christian churches, is a Sunday in which we celebrate St. Thomas, the Apostle. Our Syro-Malabar friends, one of the many Eastern rites of the Church that originated in India, are very proud today and very happy because they will tell you very proudly, and rightly so, that they were evangelized by St. Thomas himself. Imagine, St. Thomas the Apostle in those days went all the way to India to bring the Christian faith there. Interesting thing about this gospel story from St. Thomas, and in the liturgical text, it points out something that is very significant. The texts say this. They say, how wonderful is this lack of faith? How wonderful is this doubt? Because it brought the hearts of believers to the knowledge of God. O marvelous wonder, a lack of faith gave birth to a certainty of faith. For Thomas said, unless I see, I will not believe. Therefore, when he touched your side, he acknowledged that you were the incarnate Son of God, and knew that you were truly suffered in the flesh. And thus he proclaimed your resurrection from the dead, saying, my Lord and my God, glory to you. Imagine something like an apostle who knew Christ, walked with Christ, doubts him, doubts his resurrection. And yet Christ takes that terrible doubt and turns it into something wonderful. This is a sign of God's love and of God's mercy and of his power. Only he can take something, just like the cross, or doubt, and turn it into something marvelous. And so liturgical texts point that out. A very important point for us in this story of St. Thomas. But there's something else. As I always say, sometimes we hear the devil's in the detail. Well, God is in the detail too. In the biblical account of this story, where Christ appears to Thomas the apostles in the upper room, at first Thomas wasn't there, so a week later he is. It says that although the door was locked, very important detail, although the door was locked, Christ appears to them. And he says to Thomas, touch my hands, my feet, my side, in other words, my wounds. And Thomas touches them. And only when he touches the physical body of Christ that was so real as to still have the wounds on them, only then does he believe. What we have here is something very significant in terms of our belief. Jesus Christ comes into the room, although the door was locked, meaning he came in like they thought he was a ghost. He was somehow spiritualized. He passes right through a closed door. So he had to have been in a sort of a spiritual state, yet he still had his physical body that was so real, the wounds are right there. So he had both of those things together. He had what we might call a spiritualized body. And the reason why this is important, because what Christ was demonstrating was what is in store for us in our ultimate destiny. The human person was made to live body and soul intact together in heaven forever, an integrated being, not a disintegrated being like we know on earth where the body and soul separates at death. That was never meant to be. A lot of times we say, oh, we want to have souls get to heaven, or we're trying to save souls. Actually, we want to save whole persons. That's how we were originally made. That's how we were originally intended, to have ourselves enter into heaven, body and soul intact, gloriously transfigured. We know that is in store for us because it happened to Christ. And there, in this moment, we see that, witnessed by Christ, as he passes through the door, although it was locked, yet he has his same body with the wounds. And then Thomas pronounces the very words that all of this, the whole Bible, this whole Bible is all about one thing. So that you and I will say as Thomas did, my Lord and my God. Well, I don't know about you, but I'm getting pretty hungry, so it's time to head back to that kitchen.
Thanks so much for that beautiful reflection. And now we're going to go ahead and start assembling the dish. What's our first step, Father
Okay,
Moses?
let's mix the rice and the ground beef.
Okay. Throw all this in here or just a little bit?
Let's do about 2/3 of that.
Okay. You can really smell that saffron and stuff in there. All right.
There you go.
And ground beef. Thank you. All this?
Yeah, put all the ground beef. Did you know that saffron is the most expensive commodity in the world?
That's pretty exciting.
Yeah, we don't use very much. A little bit goes a long way, a couple of threads.
Should I pour that juice in there too?
Yeah, put it all in there, all that good stuff.
I won't tell.
And the flavor is really phenomenal. It's a flavor all its own, and it comes from a crocus. It's the stamen in the middle of the crocus, and it's red, but when you cook with it, it gives that nice yellow color.
Oh, okay. I was wondering why. I was like, that's the strongest chicken broth that there's ever been.
All right, that looks good. You want to spread it on this platter?
Sure. Look good?
Okay, looking good.
Okay. All right.
Go. You want to put the lamb on top?
Sure. Smells good. We don't often cook with lamb, but I'm excited to try this.
Oh, good.
Now, and you didn't put any extra spices or anything on it when you put it in the crock pot?
No, when I originally cooked it, I studded the leg of lamb with garlic and salt and pepper. It didn't need any more.
You studded it with garlic. What is?
I
what
cut
does
little
that mean?
slits in the leg and put whole cloves of garlic in, so that when it roasted, it just permeates the meat. Looks
that sounds
good.
like the best.
Now we're gonna
spread
these caramelized onions on top.
And you did those in olive oil, right?
Yeah, a little olive oil and just cook them to death. Okay.
All right.
You want to sprinkle some pine nuts and some of the slivered almonds on there. I'll put plenty. Don't skim.
Don't skim. How's that look?
Looks good.
Good? Okay. And some almonds. Do you go through quite a bit of this at the monastery?
Oh, on Thomas Sunday we'll have 75 or 100 people, so I go through a lot of this.
All right.
Looks good. Now let's get some of that yogurt on there.
Okay.
You ready to taste?
I think so. Let's get some plate. Okay. All right. How do I dig in here? Just wherever?
Just dig in. Make sure you get some of everything.
Okay. There we go. I'll do the polite thing. I'll serve you first. There
Thank
we go. Put this down. Wonderful. Now, does this keep pretty well? Like, how would you reheat it?
Oh, just put it in the microwave. Ready to go.
All right. That looks good.
All right.
All right. Here you go.
Thank you.
Here's your weapon. I'm one of those weird people. I like to smell it before I taste it. All right. You can taste the the lamb.
Any good?
Mm-hmm. Very good.
Good.
Very, very good. All goes well together. I look forward to finishing this. Well, thank you so much for joining us today. We hope you enjoyed something to do with your leftover Pascha lamb. We look forward to seeing you back. Hopefully in a few weeks we're going to take a short break and then be back this summer, hopefully with some different aspects of hospitality other than just cooking. So be sure to check back in the coming weeks for future episodes. Until then, you can still watch our previous episodes, submit any comments that you have either on the video, or there will be a way to do that via email. And we look forward to hearing from you and hearing your thoughts on what we've been doing. And also, we still need lots of prayers as well as funds to keep this program going. So be sure to check out the website and the web store for different ways to do that, as well as ways to purchase things like aprons, magnets, and other things that we'll be having for sale there. We look forward to seeing you soon. Thanks so much. God bless. Bye-bye.
Christ is risen.
Indeed, he is risen.